we have our second speaker who is going to share on balancing academics and life in China. And that is none other than Mr. Dennis Mboronjoroge. And Dennis Mboronjoroge is currently a PhD ecology student at Wuhan Botanical Garden of Chinese Academy of Sciences, where he also obtained his master's degree in ecology. He studied Bachelor of Science in Biology at the University of Nairobi, that is in Kenya. And upon completion of his undergraduate study, he worked as a pharmaceutical sales representative for 2 years and also as an insurance sales representative. Dennis is currently interested in understanding carbon and nutrient cycling in terrestrial ecosystems under the Functional Ecology Laboratory of Wuhan Botanical Garden. So, Mr. Dennis, you can share your screen, and welcome to talk to us about balancing academics and life in China.
Thank you. I hope you can hear me, right?
Yes, I can hear you.
Good. Let me know if you can see my screen.
I can see it.
All right, and good. I hope I'm also visible. It's dark where I am. The lighting is not the best, but good. So, as you have heard, my name is Dennis, and in the next 30 to 40 minutes, we are going to be discussing this very interesting topic about balancing academics and life in China. And I don't know what you think about when you think about China, academics, and life. But as we will be discussing, one of the things I want to bring across is academics is part of our life now. Us being students, life is still moving on. We are still growing in different aspects. Therefore, we are still living, and academic is just part of it. And so in our student life, we have many things to do. We want to be a well-balanced student, but we also want to have other activities. We want to socialize. We want to have a life. Maybe we need to do family work or anything. And that's why I'm saying we wear different hats at the same time. And currently, most of us are students. But apart from being students, we belong to a certain group of people. There's someone who sees me and he's like, oh, that's my son. Or who sees you and he's like, oh, that's my daughter. And we are also a brother or a sister to someone. To some of us who are already married or have kids, we are parents. You're a parent, but at the same time, you're also a student. Some are married. You are either a husband or a wife. And apart from that, you can also be a friend. I believe we have many friends around. You have classmates, or you are a part of a faith group. For example, I am a Christian. I belong to a certain group that we meet for prayers. Or you are a Muslim, you go to the mosque to pray. Or there's these groups you meet. Well, what I'm trying to pass across is that we are students, yes, but that's not the entirety of our lives. There are so many other things that we are involved in. And very interesting is all these things that I've mentioned here, they require our time. If you are a daughter to someone, as I think most of us are, we need time for our parents. You need time for your sister or for your brother. If you're a parent, you need time for your wife or your husband. If you are blessed with children, you need time for your children. You need time for this friendship that we meet and talk. And you also need time for your classmates. Sometimes they will ask for group dinners or some activities. Maybe there is football in WBG. Caleb is calling us. We need that time to be able to meet there. So all these things, we need to consider them as we think about our life here in Wuhan and here in China. So as we think about this, I want you to see yourself as this person who is multifaceted. You are occupying different niches at every time. You are not just very special. You are not just a student. and you're not just a friend. You are a student who is a friend. You're not just a parent, but you're a parent who is a student. And all these things are part of our lives. And when we talk about different aspects of our life, we can talk about many of them, but in this slide, I'll just highlight some of them. And one of the things I want to bring across in this slide is other aspects of your life don't have to stop because you're a student. Hey guys, I got a PhD. The friendship is over. Until we meet, until I finish PhD, then we are not going to meet. We don't have to do that. We don't have to be like, oh, I am so busy with my academics. My physical health is not a priority. So I want you to think all these aspects, and as we go through the slides in a short while, I want you to think, how does your schedules, or how do you balance these things? The first one is physical health, your own health. How are you doing that? Are you taking care of yourself? And later on, we'll see how can we take care of our own health. And the other thing, I put them in family and relationships. As I said, you belong to a family, you're a parent, you're a brother or a sister, or anything that you can think about. How do we bring this close? And the others, like wealth and money, satisfaction, we need money. How are we growing in that? Mental strength, how are we able to reason with those around us and our family as we talk all these things? And our spirituality, we come from different backgrounds, we have different beliefs. There are things that really guide our life. And the fact that we become students, we don't have to wash our hands off. Now I can no longer go to the mosque, or I can no longer go to church because I'm a PhD student or I'm a master's student. And of course, there's the work and career. And most of us as students, our work and career is mainly focused in being PhD students or master's student. And for Dr. Greta for being this great, was Dr. Greta, yes. And so I want you to think about these different aspects and ask yourself, which aspect of your life do you think is most neglected? Have you neglected your spiritual wellness? How about family and relationship? In this relationship, I mean, even with friends back home, we still need them. And physical health, how much of myself am I taking care of? And as we think through this, I want you to think and see which areas that you think you're not doing so well and what areas you need to pay much attention to. I might not go through everything that I mentioned here, but in my discussion this evening, I'll try to be as inclusive as possible. And I'll try to give some personal examples that I think have worked for me. And as a lover of the Bible, I love the Bible, and allow me to quote this verse. And I want to read for us. It's a citation from one of the Bible books. It's called Ecclesiastes chapter 3, verse 1 to 8. And the highlight is, there is time for everything. And it says, for everything there is a season and a time for every matter under heaven. Time to be born and time to die. A time to plant, a time to pluck up what is planted. Time to kill and time to heal. A time to break down and a time to build up. Time to weep and time to laugh. A time to mourn and a time to dance. Time to throw away stones and a time to gather stones together. A time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing. Time to seek and time to lose. A time to keep and time to throw away. Time to tear and time to seal. A time to keep silent and time to speak. Time to love and time to hate. A time for war and a time for peace. Why I put this slide here is because I think it really highlights our life as students. So there are so many things that need us. We wear different hats at different time. We are students, we are members of a family, we are members of a certain group or a certain association, like even KENSWA. But how do they all fall in our own life? And that's why I'm trying to emphasize there's time for everything. And now the greatest question becomes, how do you know the right time for what? And how do you arrange that all these things have their own time? Time to go to the lab, time to leave the lab, time to sleep, and time to wake up. And the first thing, as we go through this thing, I want us to think about our goals and our priorities. What do we really, really prioritize? And therefore, we need to prioritize and set goals if we don't do that. I want you to think of this person who is super, super busy, like we are, most of us. And this person assume they have no time for anything. They are just focused with a lot of things. But then something happens in their life and they need to create time for it. I had this example of someone who is very famous, very busy, never time for anything. But at one point they are diagnosed with a certain disease and they have to allocate 2 hours every day for medication. You see, this person will not say, oh no, I am too busy. I cannot have 2 hours set for my medication. How? Because it's very important for him to or her to get through medication. Then therefore they are going to prioritize that. And I want you to think about the times you felt, oh, I don't have time for anything. But then when you felt you don't have time for anything, something else came up and all of a sudden you had like 2 hours free. So what I'm trying to say here is you always have time for what you prioritize. This something I really believe. If you prioritize our friendship, probably you'll have time for it. If you prioritize your work, you'll never tell me you don't have time for your work. I want to use an example for those guys around the garden. There are those people we know, they really love the gym. And no matter what happens, even in their busiest days, they have time for the gym because they prioritize that. So as we try to balance our life and academia in China, I want us to think about what are these things that we are prioritizing and have we set goals for this? And then the other thing is not just prioritizing, but also take time and outline your academic and personal goals. What is it that I want to achieve? Like we know soon we are supposed, those that are graduating, you need to graduate this time. Which timelines do you have? Or do you have to wait until Xu Xiao says, tomorrow is the deadline, then you don't sleep for like 4 days? So what are your goals? So these are the things we need to be thinking about. And do we prioritize and take time to set and outline these goals? And there is this famous, we call ACE-HOA matrix. I want to think a number of us may be aware of it, but if you're not, it's where we classify things as either important or not important. But once we identify, oh, doing A is important, doing B is not important. But then the next thing we factor in a matter of urgency. And is it urgent or not? And when we classify this way, we have 4 parts. There are those things that are urgent and important. But there are those things that are really, really urgent, but not important. There are others that are really not urgent, but very important. But then there is also the last category, not urgent and not important. So I wanted to think through what are some of the things that could be very important, but not urgent. We are in the third circle here, if you can see my cursor. There are those things that are important, but not urgent. Maybe for example, next year, by June, those who are graduating, you need to submit your thesis. You don't have to do it now, but you know it's important for you to prepare to submit the thesis. So you need to think about that. In a working situation, they say those things you can delegate, but for us as students, you cannot delegate to do your work. But you need to plan it in advance, start doing slowly. But there are also some things that seem very urgent, but probably not very important. For the lovers of football, forgive me. But as for me, I think maybe there's a game between Nigeria and South Africa. It's very urgent. I have to watch it. But is it really important to you? To some, they could say it's important. Some could say it's not important. So it may vary from one person to another. Or this new series that has come out, you need to watch it when it's still very new. Maybe to someone that's not important, and neither is it urgent. So you want to think, what are some of these things? Are they urgent? Are they important? And plan accordingly. One area we need to avoid is always having things that are urgent. Like we want things that are urgent, like deadline tomorrow. And how we avoid these deadlines or these things that are very important, but then they end up becoming urgent, is by planning. Like I'll keep on using this example of thesis. If we know we are supposed to write the thesis and submit it by this day, probably you have all the results, only the writing is not finished. But you know by this month, you need to submit. If you start by now, it will not get to this point of being an urgency. It will be important, you'll do it on time and less pressure. But if we wait until the last 2 weeks and we want to do the 10,000 words within 2 days, then it becomes very urgent and important. And this place is very draining when we have very urgent things to do, always urgent. And one way, as I said, is our deadlines. How do we set our timetable so that we cover things and avoid always doing things last minute? So as I said, having a schedule is something that is very helpful. It is better if it's written, but it doesn't have to be really like written 100%. Depends. If you're a writing person, then you better write it. If not, at least have a schedule. And sometimes you say, I will be taking 1 hour every day to read, or I'll be taking 1 hour every day to talk to so-and-so or to do something. But what time exactly am I going to take? Is it 2 minutes in the morning, then 5 minutes in the evening, and then 20 minutes the other time? Or is it something that you can tell when? And then the other thing is to avoid activities crumbling into each other, develop a well-organized schedule, allocate time to all aspects of your schoolwork, and not just the schoolwork, factor in time for rest, hobbies, and self-care and socializing. I just want to know whether we are still together. Can you hear me?
Yes, you can hear you, sir.
Okay, thank you. Oh, I saw a comment here. Swimming in winter season, not urgent and not important. Thank you. So having this schedule, and because we are talking about balancing our student life and our studies, we also need, as we plan, we need to factor in time for rest. Don't plan that every day, the whole year is 8 to 10 p.m., 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. every day. You also need to think, which time will I be resting? What are the activities? What way am I going to socialize? If you are a group person like I am, maybe what time do I have to attend my Bible study group? What time do I need to go to church? What time? You need to plan all this and put them into one. And then you can't talk about scheduling without time management. And I like the first point a lot. If you don't plan for your time, others will plan for you. If I don't have any plan, then any plan that comes along becomes a good plan. So if I wake up and go to the office and I don't have any plan for that day, Felix can come and tell me, oh, let's go this way, and I'll go. Then Felix drop me off, then Boniface will come, oh, let's go this way, you go. Meaning, if you don't plan for your time, there's always something that can take your time. Others will plan for you, either friends, family, lab mates, or even the internet can plan for you. You find yourself 2 days later wondering what you were supposed to do a day earlier. And the other aspect is procrastination, which is a big obstacle. I know like in winter, I'm guilty of that. You're like, I'll go to the office 1 hour later, then another hour. By the time you realize it's midday and you're like, oh, let me go for lunch first. Then I'll go to the office later. And this does not just apply to the time we go to the office, but also the time we will do certain tasks. Maybe I'm supposed to send this work to my boss. Then I'm like, I'll start. I still have time. I can start next week. Then next week arrives and I realize I have gotten to that place. It is very urgent. Therefore, I have no time even for sleep. And then effective time management skills allows you to break down tasks and set deadlines. And I want to challenge us to have our own time, set times to do other things and our academic work, apart from those given to us by our professor. Because my supervisor can tell me, Dennis, by Wednesday, please send the document to me. That one I have no control, so I have to push myself. But what about those things I know, maybe 3 months later, I know I would need to write this paper. How do I plan myself so that by 3 months, I will have done something more than what my teacher wants me to do, or I will plan my time accordingly so that I am able to meet my own deadlines. And there's some beauty when you set your own deadlines and meet them than when you're just being pushed by your bosses to achieve their deadlines and not yours. And when you talk about time management, there are multiple different tools available that can help you manage your time online. If you search them online, I didn't provide some examples here, but they are available online. And then the other aspect is take care of your health. And in this slide, I put some pictures of myself actually to show you that I try to take care of my health by exercising. In the first picture, we are playing a game called Frisbee. That's the ball, like the Frisbee pun. And the other one is football. What I'm trying to bring across here is that we need to take care of our health. And the only way we can achieve academic and personal success is by taking care of our body. When we are not well, when we are not healthy, when we are not doing well physically, we cannot be well mentally. When we are not well, we will not even be able to interact with friends, neither will we be able to even go to the office and do our work. Apart from that, we also need to maintain a balanced diet, exercise regularly, and get enough sleep. Don't always be seated on the desk the whole time, from Monday to Monday, the whole year, just going for dinner, lunch, and coming back. Also exercise, do some exercise. You don't have to do much exercise. Even walking around the school is enough exercise. Just stretching in your room is enough exercise. If you're very active, well and good, you can go and join football like I do sometimes. And this is very essential for you. For one thing I noticed for me is when I do these activities, maybe my office work is very frustrating. I'll go and play these games. By the time I come back, I'm more fresh and stronger to handle the pressure and be able to find a solution because you've taken a break. But the moment we don't take breaks, all this pressure builds up. And we end up spending a lot of time, but being less effective. And you'll be amazed how much eating, cleaning, and restful sleep can improve your life. Sleep well, my friends. Don't just be sleeping at 3 a.m. and waking up at 6. That is how busy you are. You can't sustain that for long. You will, I'm not saying you don't have to do that, but if that becomes your routine, you're always sleeping very late or not have, I don't want to specify the time, but not having enough sleeps make you less productive. One thing I noticed for me and also some of my friends, when I am tired, very tired, the task that I do for like 2 hours, I can do it with less than 30 minutes when I'm fresh. So me transnighting the whole night, I can end up doing a task that I will have done with 3 hours early morning if I am fresh. So another thing is just know how your system operates. know how you operate, and know which is the best time you're productive. But also save this time, eat well, exercise, take care of yourself. And embrace time for rest and self-care. It's very important. Resting is an important part of life that we often tend to ignore. So taking frequent breaks and engaging in activities that help you relax and recharge is important. For example, you need to know what are some of those helpful and important activities that when you do, you feel relaxed, such that when you come back to office the following day or after the weekend, you feel back energetic. What are some of those things you do? To some could be exercises, as I mentioned. To some, it could be going out and doing some other things. So you need to think and ask yourself, what are some of those things that to you are helpful when it comes to resting? And these activities help to reduce stress and frustration, and they help to balance between academia and personal life. Because if you're healthy and well-balanced, you'll be able to have time for your friends, for your family, and even for your studies. And another thing I would encourage us is take breaks. Even take an afternoon break and rest. You'll be amazed by how much that can help. And please don't mistake that with sleeping the whole day for a whole week. Take rest, but also work hard. And this is another skill that is very, very important. Learn to say no. While we say socializing, we belong to this group, we belong to a family, we belong to a lab, we have classmates. All these are very important, but we need to know our limits. What are my deadlines? What are some of the things I can't do? What are some of the things I need to do and when? So to prevent burnout and getting overwhelmed we do this by learning how to say no to too many commitments, so that you have some time for yourself. Not every minute, apart from when your eyes are closed, you have activities. Also, sometimes you can just say no to these activities. What are these activities that sometimes they are really not that helpful? Find a way to communicate your boundaries with friends and families or classmates. Let them know that, oh, for so-and-so, this day is their day to rest. Or for so-and-so on a Monday, if you look for them, he will be here and here. Therefore, at that time, they will not look for you. Or a certain time, this is my time, or this is the time I do something. When we communicate this, you realize that actually the demand for our time reduces. Because I know if I'm looking for so-and-so in the morning, this is their time to study, or this is their time to do something. Therefore, I'll end up not doing that. And the last one is seek support. And as a rule of thumb, do not hesitate to ask for help. Sometimes you might realize that the thing I'm struggling with, it's something that maybe someone next door has already dealt with. And therefore, I don't need to spend 5 hours figuring out what X plus X is, when I can go to Boniface, who has already done it and can explain to me in a better way. So we need to reach out to our professors, go to the supervisors and ask them. Hopefully they will be helpful. Apart from professors, we have classmates, either the same lab, whether they are Chinese or non-Chinese. Bond with them, find a way of striking a balance. When you have this community around you that you can reach out, it makes your life even more interesting. It enriches your life even socially, even academically. But there are also other things that probably they are not academic related. Maybe I'm having some issues from home. Or maybe you're having a heartbreak with your girlfriend, or something just happened, and instead of just suffering by yourself, you can seek help. And you can talk to people. Don't just be a lone ranger, as I mentioned earlier. Talk to people you trust. As I said, we belong to a group, and therefore there are people I believe that we can open up to, and we can share our lives with these people. And if not possible, we can also seek counseling. We have professional counseling, whether it's online or home or here. We can seek all these things, and this will help us both in our academia and also in our own life. And the other thing is we have to take note of those distractions. What are these unnecessary things that steal our time? And in this category, I'll go, if you remember the 4 boxes I showed, this is a category that falls with urgent but not urgent and not important. These are things that really steal our time. They are those little thieves of our time. What are those things that steal our time? To some, it could be just YouTube short videos or WeChat channels or other online platforms. You are always online, and then something happens. You realize, oh, 2 hours later, I was supposed to run this script in R, and you remembered, oh, it's lunchtime, but I was only in YouTube. To some, it's something very, very exciting. Like I'll go and watch football the whole night, but I have a meeting tomorrow with my boss, and then I come very tired. I have not finished my work. I'm not saying it happens, but these are some of funny examples that could happen. What are those things that are stealing your time that you end up actually not achieving your set goals because of these not important and not urgent, or not important and urgent activities? And other things is you can try and install apps you no longer use and close tabs when you're not using them. For example, if you realize that, oh, having these apps in my phone makes me stick to them throughout, you can uninstall them. Or you can take out those things that you don't need for that time. And you can also try being organized to help reduce the feeling of being overwhelmed. For my case, the kind of experiment I do, I have to fill a lot of paperwork, like a lot of forms with columns. And then later on, I'll go to transfer it to my computer. And I realize when I'm doing this data entry with a lot of papers on my table, you end up feeling like you're so overwhelmed. There are so many things. You just look, these I need to enter, these I need to enter, these I need to enter. But when I arrange them well and sort them well, you realize it's a lot of work, but you don't feel overwhelmed because it's a step at a time. So stay organized, whether it's in your office, sometimes it's the desktop. You have multiple tabs open at all times, or 105 documents. You don't even know which one. Or you have very many folders that you don't even know where did you save your last work. And sometimes it can be frustrating. You can spend a whole afternoon looking for a folder that you saved an Excel file. So stay organized both in your personal space and your computer, because we often work with our computers. And as Greta said, even in our lab books, how do you know which activity you did when and how? All this reduces time wastage, and therefore you have more time with other things that you think are important. But the other thing is, because we are talking about balancing our life as students and in China, we really have to be intentional with our social time. And from my experience, there is always something demanding for my time and attention. Sometimes maybe I need to sleep, it's demanding my time and attention. Sometimes I need to go to the lab, sometimes I need to talk to a friend, sometimes my mom has called, sometimes I need to call my sister, sometimes we need to call a friend. All these people, they take time from us, and they are important, as we have already established. But if we are not intentional, we might end up feeling like these people are really distracting our schedules. So we need to be very intentional with our time with our friends. So do not be a lone ranger, as I've been mentioning, be part of a group. And this group, for me, in an example, will be a Bible study. Maybe for you will be going to the mosque, or the group that you meet with, or going to church, or events like this one, KENSWA, or when we meet outside, play football, go out, play badminton, all these things, we really need to be very intentional because they are part of our social life. And if our social life is excluded from our life, then we end up with having a very dry life as a student. And because you realize we are in different time zones, one of the important things that you could do, maybe even instead of just random calls, you could have scheduled calls for family or friends or other important people in your life. You know, like on Monday's evening, I'll be talking to so-and-so. And it's not, that time is already scheduled. Because you could go for months wanting to call someone, but never having time to call them. I don't know whether you have experienced that, but for me, this is one of the things I'm like, oh, I was supposed to respond to so-and-so. Then it goes 2 months down the line is when I'm going through the chat, I'm like, I did not manage to respond. So we need to have that scheduled time that we can allocate either for the special people in our life, our parents, our friends, our families, things like that. And this is the last one for my slides. And I put it the last because it's very essential. If we do every other thing above and be lazy, then it won't work. And therefore, I'm concluding with this, again, a quotation from the Bible, from Proverbs. And I'm saying a little sleep, a little slumber, a little folding of the hands to rest, and poverty will come upon you like a robber, and want like an armed man. So let's not be, if you are lazy, don't be lazy. Try not to be lazy, because we cannot have a balanced life if we are lazy. And with that, I'll say thank you. I'm sure I didn't cover everything, but at least I gave some few highlights that we can think about. I welcome time for questions. And over to you, Caleb.
Well, thank you so much, Dennis, for sharing this knowledge. As he said, it's time for question and answer. Any question that you might have. I saw one question on the chat, but I think it's directed to Dr. Greta, whom I think might have left the meeting because he had informed me he might be attending another meeting. But keep sending those messages and I'll forward them to him. But those that are pertaining Dennis, you can unmute, or you can also send in the chat box. It's time for questions. 5 minutes. By 8:50, we should move on to our next and final item. Thank you.
Any questions, suggestions are welcome, or something you think we can discuss as a group. We can use that time to do that. The room is silent. I'll take it that we are well satisfied and no question.
So, can I ask a question?
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you for the good presentation. I noticed you've mentioned something little about people fellowshipping in Bible studies. You've just given it as an example, but I would like to isolate that and ask, more often than not, people are warned about converging and sharing matters religion here in China. What might be the risks that are associated when somebody finds themselves in a church setup or a gathering that is religious based, or the conversation is about religion and worship, what might be the consequences associated? Because maybe once or twice friends of mine have invited me to go and attend a church service. It's not in a physical church. You realize these guys have rented just a hotel or some conference hall. But as you guys progress, you even don't sing too loud, but we are used at home. We sing and we jump, So it looks like your friends want to do something good, but it looks like also it's some murky waters, very risky. And probably once you guys get arrested there, the consequences are, not something that somebody might want to even share with parents, because they'll be like, you didn't read the guidelines. What bound you that to be in China? Yeah. Anyway, if you could give us tips on that, what are the worst case scenarios that can happen, and how somebody can just be around, but again, be socializing well? Thanks.
All right. I will to answer that. I really can't tell you what's the worst case scenario you can think of the worst, but it doesn't mean in China you can't meet for churches or group or mosque or anything for that matter. There are registered churches you can attend, and it's okay to do that. But there are also small groups that you have friends you can meet and discuss as friends. And also when these people meet, they also have their own, how do you call it? They are taking into consideration all these things by the time even the hotel allows you to meet. So it's not like it's an illegal thing to do. It's just that there are some other requirements that are needed to do. But then if it comes to a place you're free even to attend things, we have online platforms where people can meet and weekly in, week out, and discuss and attend church together or discuss different topics together. So I think it's something you could think about and not just think about the worst case scenario. If I've not answered, maybe I could discuss with you more in details and share my own experience later on.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
All right.
Any other questions?
Mayor.
Okay. So Dennis, on behalf of the association and also the attendees for today, we really appreciate you taking your time to prepare a wonderful presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yes, so briefly, I'll share my screen just a bit. Yeah, so we in our final section. It's more of closing and prayer. So at this time, I'll want to welcome our Vice Chairperson for KENSWA, that is Zamit Oginga, to make her remarks and conclude for us today's event. For me, it's Caleb, and thank you. I've been your moderator. Thank you. Yeah, I'll share the slides in case you need them. Welcome, Zamit.
Okay, thank you very much, Caleb, for the invite. And I just want to say that this is an enriching experience. So as we have come to the end of the training session, I would just like to extend my heartfelt gratitude to each and every one of you for your active participation and engagement throughout the session. Above all, I would like to show my gratitude to Dr. Greta and also Mr. Dennis for taking your time to guide us through. We have looked into crucial topics such as like the thesis, manuscript writing, publishing. We've gained invaluable insights and strategies to enhance our scholarly endeavors. Moreover, I think we have explored the delicate balance between the academic pursuits and the vibrant life in China, enriching our understanding of the academic landscape within this dynamic environment. And in that point, I picked the most point, which is time management, which can be, if we use it well without procrastination, it can really help us a lot. So therefore, I encourage all of us to carry forward the knowledge and also the perspective gained here, apply them to their diligence and creativity in our respective academic and also our life journeys. Let us also continue to foster collaboration, exchange ideas, and also strive to excellence in our scholarly pursuits. So once again, thank you very much for your dedication and enthusiasm. Here's to our continued growth as KENSWA members and also success as scholarly in the global academic community. So thank you very much. And at this point, I don't think I was a speaker, but I was just giving remarks, so I won't expect any questions. So we go straight to a word of prayer. Let's close our eyes and pray. Heavenly Father, thank you for this day that you've given us. Thank you for the gift of life that you've granted unto us until this particular time. Father, as we come before you, as sinful as we are, through our thoughts, through our words, and through our actions, I pray that you may forgive us and also accept us back as your children, Father. Father, I pray that you may send your Holy Spirit to guide us in our daily endeavors, and also for this session that we have taken to learn a few things that can help us in our academic endeavor. Please help us so that we can be able to internalize it and also use it in our daily activities, Father. I pray that you may be with each and every one of us. Give us wisdom and knowledge so that we may be able to differentiate what is good and what is bad. And as we go to sleep these nights, may you send the holy angels to protect us all through the night. And may you always guide us all through. In Jesus' name I pray and believe. Amen.
Amen.
Amen.